Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. As always, I am Bryson Carver. Very excited to be with you on this Wednesday. I'm feeling hyped. I'm feeling energized. NFL is a week from tomorrow. Are you kidding me? We got Chiefs. We got Ravens. More NFL takes in terms of my predictions to come next week. But in terms of, I guess, somewhat of a projection, we get a little bit more news as the days go on, or as the days go by, in terms of what we're going to see, at least in week one. The Steelers, my Steelers, naming Russ as the starting quarterback for the upcoming season, at least for week one, moving forward until something happens and Fields replaces him. Who knows? Give my take on that. Why I think the Steelers actually made the right call in starting Russell Wilson in about 10 to 12 minutes. Also, carving up the context. We did a special edition of that on Monday, but we're back in our regularly scheduled programming on a Wednesday. Caitlin Clark has been balling lately, and it proves me correct in why she should not have been on Team USA. I'll explain that in about 30 minutes. Also, going to get into Shohei Ohtani. Again, we're running out of adjectives to describe this guy. I didn't get a chance to talk about him on Monday because of all the football topics, but he deserved a segment on the fact that he's the sixth player in baseball history to join the 40-40 club, and kind of my, my big take on Shohei that I don't know if he gets enough credit on. Getting to that later in the show. Dalvin Cook to the Cowboys doesn't hurt him, but I don't think it makes the impact that some may think it does. And at the end of today's show, we've been doing this sort of mini-series, the biggest strengths and weaknesses of major NFL teams. So we're going to major NFL teams, all the NFL teams. AFC North, NFC North, strengths and weaknesses. My Steelers are obviously included in that batch of teams. So very excited to get into all of that. But first, there was a poll that came out. Now, for the record, we're in an election year. I tend to, regardless whether it's swaying one way or the other, not to trust polls all that much. Regardless of where it's leaning for the candidate on the Republican side, the candidate on the Democrat side, I don't buy those a ton one way or the other. Only real poll that matters is election day. But we did get a poll from NFL players via ESPN. They polled 100 NFL players on a variety of subjects, such as, best trash talker, the most underrated player, or quarterback rather, in the National Football League. Brock Purdy won that award. Disagree with that, but, put that aside for another day. They also voted on the most overrated quarterback in the National Football League, and would you know it, Josh Allen won. Now, Josh Allen was a good sport about it. He was on some Buffalo radio show in New York talking about, hey, I'm just going to keep playing my game, doing whatever. And this is going to serve as fire motivation for Josh Allen, as well it should. But folks see the headline, Josh Allen voted the most overrated player in the NFL, and they think, oh, what a travesty. How could... Think about it from this perspective and think about what that word means, overrated. When you say somebody's overrated, are you talking in the context of everybody in their field? Because I don't think you are. If you're talking all 32 projected starters in the National Football League, is Josh Allen overrated? Obviously not. That's a ridiculous take to have. He has a very comfortable seat amongst the five best quarterbacks in the NFL. I've got him at number 4 behind Mahomes, behind Lamar, in this order, Mahomes, Burrow, then Lamar, then I go to Josh Allen. And after that, it's kind of an open book for a lot of guys. But Josh Allen's a top 5 quarterback, no debate. But we don't talk about Josh Allen amongst quarterbacks, nor should we. We talk about Josh Allen, or at least the last 3 years, the prevailing narrative has been, hey, Mahomes is 1A, Josh Allen's 1B. It's neck and neck. It's that close. Like everybody acknowledges across the board, Mahomes the better player. But, in terms of value to their team, in terms of, we obviously remember that game 3 years ago in 2021 that Josh Allen lost. Wasn't his fault, by the way, but we give Josh Allen as much credit for a loss as we do some guys for their best win. If you go back to that 2021 playoff game, Bills-Chiefs, what a classic that was. It's been this constant comparison ever since. Mahomes versus Allen. Now, what we do know is this. They played 3 times in the playoffs. The first time, we can show you the numbers. All stats provided by our friends at StatMeets. All graphics provided by my man, Alfred Parsar Jr. Alfred sent me this in January, so I just figured might as well, recycle it today. But 2020 AFC Championship game, Mahomes was better basically across the board. More touchdowns, less turnovers, better completion, better rating, better QBR, and he won the game. The second time they played, it was much closer to a draw. Both guys had four touchdowns apiece, zero interceptions or zero turnovers in general. Mahomes had more yards, though, better completion, but Allen had the better rating. But Mahomes had the better QBR, and of course, he won the game. Nobody's faulting Josh Allen for that because he was nothing short of remarkable. It's the best game he's ever played. And finally, the last time they played, when I was told, hey, Allen played Mahomes toe-to-toe. Did he? He had one more touchdown to his credit. Both guys, zero turnovers. Allen had more yards. But Mahomes' better completion percentage, significantly better rating, not even close, 131 to 86, significantly better QBR, 91 to 65. And of course, Patrick Mahomes won that game, a game in which, by the way, Josh Allen had the ball in his hands with the shot to win the game. Well, missed field goal. Kind of like how Josh Allen on a third down missed Stephon Diggs coming across the field for what would have been a drive continuing first down. I digress. So within the conversation of how Josh Allen is discussed, I don't think he's the most overrated player in the league, at least at the quarterback position. I would throw up guys like a Brock Purdy, to a lesser degree, like a Tua Tagovailoa. Those are kind of the guys that I would discuss as like most overrated. Some folks feel Trevor Lawrence is that way. I'm a big Trevor guy, but I understand why folks feel that way given the results that we've seen over his first 3 seasons. I get that. I don't think Josh Allen's the most overrated player in the league. But relative to how he's discussed on a day-to-day basis, yeah, I understand why the players feel that way. And think about it this way, too, because we have we're actually a couple of Josh Allen graphics to show you. We think about the quarterback position, we think of it as primarily a passing position, right? Being able to throw the football accurately, on time, being able to lead drives, particularly with your arm. Now, obviously, Josh Allen, part of what makes him so special is his legs, is his rushing ability. Now, he can get reckless at times with that. He's tried to hurdle guys, on 3rd and long when he has no shot to get the first down. He's often been very reckless with his body, what he's decided to do on the field at times. But that's part of what makes him special. But in terms of throwing the football, Josh is a good quarterback. His legs and his playmaking ability are what makes him special. That's what makes him a top 5 guy. Purely throwing the football, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. He's not special. He's not great. He's not bad. He's good. We can show you the stats. Since 2021. So Josh Allen nearly wins MVP in 2020, somehow placed over Mahomes in the final MVP tallying, finished behind Aaron Rodgers that year. Not sure that happened. Last 3 years since then. Here's what Josh Allen's been. We have the stat. There you go. 93 passer rating. That's 16th in the league in that span. Since 2021, 259 pass yards per game. That's 8th. Not bad. 64% completion. That ranks 23rd in the NFL. And touchdown to interception ratio, 100 to 47. That ranks 15th. So it's kind of like a little bit of, to a certain degree, a roller coaster where the yards per game's good, but the completion percentage really isn't, especially relative to other guys like a Joe Burrow, who's dead accurate. Mahomes, same thing, as accurate as a quarterback as we've seen, certainly in the modern NFL. But oftentimes, this is where it gets the conversation of Josh Allen being an overrated quarterback. This, to me, is where it often stems from. Not just the comparison with Mahomes, but what I just showed you right there. And I've been doing recently blind resumes. I have fallen in love with them as of late. I don't know why. I think it's nice to have a graphic that can bust folks, including my own, preconceived notions. And this will do that. And folks are going to kid on me for this, but I don't really care. Let's show this comparison since 2021. So you see, we already showed you Josh Allen's stats. You see him right there. The numbers on the right side of the screen next to Josh Allen, we all agree, better across the board. Better passer rating, 101 to 93. Pass yards per game, 263 to 259. Completion percentage, 68 to 64. And Allen has thrown more touchdowns than this individual, but the other guy has a much better touchdown to interception ratio. He's a better decision maker with the football in his hands at the quarterback position. Can we show who the mystery quarterback is? It's my man, Dak Prescott. Bryson, are you saying? No, I'm not saying. Dak Prescott is not better than Josh Allen. There was a time early in last year, I thought that was a legitimate conversation, but given what Allen did toward the end of the year, credit to him, it was a little bit of an overrated stretch, particularly the game against Miami. That aside, Josh, as a pure playmaker, is better than Dak Prescott, thus putting him above him. And Allen, to his credit, has at least been to a conference title game. Dak has never done that. But we don't discuss Dak, nor should we. Nor should we even think about comparing Dak Prescott to Patrick Mahomes. That'd be blasphemy, football blasphemy. But we compare Josh Allen to that because of one playoff game where he played amazing. Kudos to him, but he lost. It reminds me a little bit of when Dak Prescott in 2016, his rookie season, played prime. That was when Aaron Rodgers was at his peak, man. He was winning MVPs. He was still very more successful in the playoffs then than he is now. Aaron was great. Dak played him toe-to-toe. In some metrics, he actually outplayed Aaron Rodgers. Aaron got the last laugh on a throw down the sideline to Jared Cook. We know how that ended. But Dak held his own against the great Aaron Rodgers, the prime Aaron Rodgers, just like Josh Allen did with Mahomes back in 2021 during that playoff game. And God knows, I want to emphasize this. It was not his fault whatsoever that the Bills lost that football game at Arrowhead Stadium in the 2021 season. Not whatsoever. But I feel like he's been given an extended level of leeway when since then in the postseason. He was in a close game in the fourth quarter against the Miami Dolphins at home. Miami playing on the cold weather. That doesn't work well. Skylar Thompson was the Dolphins quarterback. That was a one-score football game. It was dicey with about 4 minutes to go. The next week, the Bengals, Joe Burrow, who's obviously better than Josh Allen because he's beaten Mahomes and has outplayed Mahomes in many games that mattered. Joe Burrow went into Josh Allen's house. The Bengals went into Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills' house in the snow. Smoked them. A year ago in the wildcard game, Josh Allen was remarkable against my Steelers. He was fantastic. Got nothing bad to say about him in that game. But in the fourth quarter against the Kansas City Chiefs, no touchdowns, a near devastating turnover. By the way, coming after a devastating turnover by the Chiefs and McCole Hardman on a fumble at the goal line when they could have put that game away. Josh Allen was giving gift after gift after gift in that contest against the Kansas City Chiefs in the postseason back in January, and missed open receivers, made poor decisions, was reckless with the football, which he always is. Listen, and by the way, you want to know the good side of Josh? He'll tell you the good side of Josh, okay? Josh Allen the last 5 years. First in total touchdowns, second in total yards, second in total wins, tied for second in playoff wins. He's a great player. There's no question about it. As a thrower of the football, he's okay. He's all right. Not elite, not bad. He's fine. Decision-making, I have been extremely critical of that in the past. There were multiple games last year in which he, not single-handedly, I don't think he lost any games outside of the Jets game, single-handedly to anybody, but the bad decision-making against the Jets, the bad decision-making, there was a game they lost to the Patriots, bad decision-making almost cost them game to the darn Giants. It almost did in the division-deciding game against the Dolphins in Week 18. Recklessness, trying things that don't need to be tried in certain circumstances. So when NFL players vote Josh Allen as the most overrated quarterback in the league, I don't agree with that statement, but there's plenty of merit to it. The idea that is just an outlandish statement to make is simply not true and not backed up by facts. Statistically speaking, Dak Prescott's been better than Josh Allen. Is he discussed as better? No. By the way, as the biggest Dak fan in the world, I don't think he's better than Josh Allen. The Josh Allen's compared to Patrick Mahomes almost on a daily basis. It's 1A and 1B. He has no Super Bowl championships, no Super Bowl appearances. By the way, neither does Lamar Jackson, but he has 2 league MVPs. If we're talking about the upper echelon of quarterbacks, Mahomes is in a league of his own. I think that should be universally agreed upon. It then goes to Joe Burrow, who took his team to a Super Bowl with the worst offensive line in the league. And then got his team with the worst offensive line in the league again to the precipice of another Super Bowl when he lost to Mahomes in 2022. Lamar Jackson has had similar success against Mahomes, but at least he has a couple of regular season MVPs to show for it. Allen has neither. I mean, if you want to tell the entire story thus far, what has been written about Josh Allen, he's a great playmaker. He's a reckless player, but he's great down the red zone. But he's also an average thrower of the football. He is. That's the story of Josh Allen, and that's why I don't think the players are out of their minds to vote the way they did. Disagree with them, but there's plenty of merit to it. And it's mostly stems from Allen being in the same conversation or being discussed in the same conversation as a guy who I think is already the second greatest quarterback in the history of the game in Patrick Mahomes. There's no question he's on the Mount Rushmore. No question. So listen, I hate to bust the preconceived notions of the Josh Allen crowd, but that's the reality of where we're at with that conversation. So yeah, and by the way, he's fantastic. I think the Bills, to a certain degree, I'll make my predictions next week with Ryan Flowers, hopefully this a week from now on Wednesday. I think the Bills, to a certain level, of being a little bit underrated. I kind of like where the Bills, their draft wasn't bad. The Keon Coleman pick was really solid. I love their 2 tight ends. They have this is the best running game Josh Allen's ever had, the best offensive line he's had. Like, I think I have a lot more optimism on the Bills now this year than I did a season ago. And by the way, a season ago, they were in the divisional round in a home playoff game. So who knows? Maybe they get deeper. I don't think that's out of the question. But it's so weird. There's certain athletes that if you're critical of them in any form, even if you have stats and facts and data and information to back up your case, you're all of a sudden a hater. You don't think they're any good. You're not giving them the credit they deserve. That's not true. Give me my top 4 quarterbacks, top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. Allen is in that group. He's at number 4. So there you go. All right. Speaking of elite quarterbacks, well, he was elite like 10 years ago. Let's talk about Russell Wilson, who was named the starter by Mike Tomlin for my Pittsburgh Steelers. He's named the starting quarterback. So here's the thing. When the Steelers added Russell Wilson back in March, 1-year deal that pays him a little over $1 million, I had very mixed emotions about it. For obvious reasons from Russell's recent play in the last really 3 seasons, going back to his last year in Seattle, his disastrous first year in Denver, and a somewhat misleading stat line in his second season with Sean Payton. I'm like, don't know about this. But then I also looked at the other side of that coin and said, yeah, but he's better than Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, who played well, by the way, but he's still Mason Rudolph. He's still a backup, and he's much better than Mitch Trubisky. So in that regard, I was okay with it. And then I like the fact that Steelers added some competition. Quarterback from the Chicago Bears with high upside, great mobility, not a terribly accurate passer decision maker, but mobile, can make a play here or there. Justin Fields. And I said this back late July, early August, whenever I did this topic about who's going to win the Steelers quarterback battle. I always felt like it should be Russ, because Russ has been better lately than Justin Fields. We could show you the numbers. Russell's been the better player. It's certainly a season ago he was. Russell Wilson, 200 more total yards, not passing. Because the thing about Justin Fields, what he can do with his feet, Russell is not that guy they used to be in terms of his mobility, but Russell still had 200 more yards, total yards than Justin Fields. He had 9 more total touchdowns than Fields. He had 1 fewer interception despite playing more games than Justin Fields. 66 to 61% completion. Russell was better, much better passer rating, 98 to 86, and a better record, 7-8 versus Justin Fields, 5-8. So a season ago, Russell was the better player. Now, conventional wisdom would tell you Russell should be on the decline and Fields should be getting better. I'm not totally ruling out that possibility because Fields is going into year 4. Russell's going into year 13. He should be on the decline. Frankly, he is. We've seen what he's been the last few seasons. But to me, the plan, the smart one, at least for the Steelers, has always been and should be. And I don't know if Tomlin's taking this. I don't know if Omar Khan is taking this into account. I would not throw out the possibility that they are. Is that Russell's not going to be the longest. Even if Russell Wilson has a year replicative of his 2020 season, when he got off to a blistering start, was tearing up the whole league, throwing 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, and then tailed off badly at the end, and Seattle goes out in round 1 against the LA Rams. If Russell Wilson's that, he probably gets he almost certainly gets a contract extension, because that would, in all likelihood, be good enough to get the Steelers to the playoffs. It'd be better quarterback play than what we saw from the entire quarterback room combined a year ago. But Russell Wilson is still, 35 years old, 36 years old? He doesn't have a whole lot longer left in the league. Certainly doesn't have many high-end years left in the league. I'm not sure he has any high-end years left in the NFL. Justin Fields, sorry, from what we've seen, In Chicago, what we see the highlights, we see the long touchdown runs, we see the occasional good deep ball throw, but is he good in the intermediate routes? No. Is he a good decision maker with the ball? No. Is he consistent? No. I mean, I think, at least I view the Chicago Bears now adding Caleb Williams, albeit with added talent with Rome Odunze, with DeAndre Swift, with Keenan Allen as a potential playoff contender this coming season. I'm not sure. As good as the NFC this year, I'm not so sure I'd feel that way if Justin Fields were still the Chicago Bears quarterback, even with those additions. What the Pittsburgh Steelers should do, and I think this is going to end up being their strategy, whether they realize it now or not. Russell Wilson will and should start, again, this is all health permitting, knock on wood for Russell Wilson. Health permitting should start the entire season. Now, what will happen out of that? 6 wins, 7 wins, 10 wins, playoffs, who knows? I mean, the optimistic Steelers fan, of which I lean a little bit more pessimistic in terms of the quarterback situation, but an optimistic Steelers fan would say, are you kidding me? We have one of the worst quarterback rooms in the league a year ago. We won 10 games, made the playoffs in the toughest division of the league. True, but you also have to factor in Joe Burrow was hurt. And both Steelers wins against the Bengals last year came against Jake Browning, who, by the way, did a pretty good job in Joe Burrow's absence, but Jake Browning's no Joe Burrow. We know that. Joe Burrow's back healthy. Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, lost some pieces. I'll get to my AFC North and NFC North weaknesses at the end of the show. Still Lamar Jackson, still John Harbaugh, still a solid football operation over there in Baltimore. And Cleveland, for their quarterback woes, very well coached, got some playmakers, particularly on the defensive side of the football. The Steelers could make up for that if they had an elite player at the quarterback position. They obviously do not have that. Russell Wilson should play the entirety of this season. Justin Fields will be in. Mike Tomlin, according to Rich Eisen, who said today, Mike Tomlin texted Raheem Morris, who's the head coach of the Falcons, who Pittsburgh will be playing in week 1, and said, get ready for some Justin Fields packages. Like that's going to be something that we're going to use, which I think they should. Justin Fields is too good of a player to just leave on the bench for no reason at all. What you do is you play Russ. He's on a 1-year contract. Low risk, high reward potentially. You get what you get out of Russ, 7 to 10 wins. You let Russ walk. You extend Justin Fields, and you sign Dak Prescott. And you either keep Justin Fields as Dak's backup, because Justin Fields is a very good backup quarterback in this league. Low-end starter, high-end backup is where I've got him. Or you move him for better pieces. That's what I thought the Cowboys were going to do with Trey Lance. Use him in some packages here and there, and don't really play him much. Don't show him off that much. And then move him for more than what you got him for, which was a 4th-round pick. That's not what they did because the Cowboys aren't very good at making football decisions. The Steelers are. You keep Justin Fields your backup. You move him, for better pieces. And you probably draft a quarterback in like the 4th or 5th round to back up Dak Prescott. That, to me, needs to be the plan. And by the way, if the Dak thing doesn't work out, you play Russ. You get what you can get out of Russ. And you move up in the draft and take one of the high-end quarterbacks in this draft. Obviously, Carson Beck, Shedeur Sand. I'm not terribly high on Shedeur because of the character stuff, beefing with people on Twitter. You got some other quarterback. Quinn Ewers, I'm not sure about him. There's some solid, high upside quarterbacks in this upcoming 2025 draft. Not to the level I thought was in this past draft, but better long-term upside options for the Steelers and certainly what they have right now with Russ and Justin Fields. So in the here and now, as well as the long term, I think Mike Tomlin made the right decision starting Russ. Russ is for his faults, he's a veteran. He'll win you some games here or there. He's a better option than what you had a year ago, and we'll see what we'll see from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I've got most of my predictions for the upcoming football season mostly set in stone to be revealed next week. The Steelers are one of the few that I have not. I do not have a strong conviction when it comes to my football team. Maybe it's because of my own internal bias. I want my team to be successful, but I know that there's a ceiling because of the quarterback play, not because of the roster. So I think this is the right call for Pittsburgh. I prefer Justin Fields not start too many, if any, games at all so you can preserve his value, because Fields not be the long-term answer for Pittsburgh. That's not going to happen. Let Russ walk, keep Fields, use him as maybe an asset, and go all out. The standard in Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin, the standard is the standard. That's his famous catchphrase. Well, the standard in the Steel City is 6 Super Bowl championships, tied for the most with the New England Patriots. The standard in Pittsburgh is smart football, hard-nosed football, and playing big games in January and February. You give Dak Prescott stability for the first time in his almost decade-long career. You give him an elite coach for the first time in his decade-long career after he almost won MVP a year ago with Mike McCarthy. Like McCarthy, he's not Mike Tomlin. That goes without saying. And with no other perimeter threats outside of CeeDee Lamb. You give him the weapons in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh drafts wide receivers as well as anybody in the league. You give him a guy, I could be wrong on this, but a guy I think is a good offensive coordinator, not a head coach, an offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith. You've got a Super Bowl contender in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. With that defense, forget about it. TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Patrick Queen, those guys, forget about it. So in the here and now, and in the long term, like what the Steelers did today. And by the way, I do think it was to a certain level kind of predictable. I don't think, I would have been pretty shocked if Tomlin came out today and said, Fields is the guy. That had caught me off guard. I'm not going to lie to you. But this is to me the right call. Even if Dak doesn't end up a Steeler, which I pray to God is not the case. I hope Dak is a Steeler. I've been recruiting him to Pittsburgh ever since I became a Steelers fan. This is the better term option long term. Even if Dak doesn't show up, you draft a quarterback. That's what I think is the best case scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But yeah, I don't really know what to make of that team this year because I still love the roster just as much as I did a year ago. I was highly impressed by the fact that, some of the in-season in terms of firing Matt Canada and off-season in terms of bringing in Arthur Smith, who had gotten interviews. I think like 9 teams were interested in Arthur Smith. That's what the reporting said this offseason. You had Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, who are better than what you had a year ago. They're good bridge guys, and you bring in the guy in 2025. And to those who are saying, well, Dak's going to... No, he's not. I've said that for a month. I will certainly stay on it. I think I'll be proven correct by next Saturday because the Cowboys and Dak are not going to get this deal done during the season. Jerry Jones had a quote today where he's saying that it wouldn't be the worst, we don't have to get this done before the season. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. He said something like, we're comfortable with watching Dak play out this upcoming season. And that runs pretty consistent with what the reporting has been out of Dallas going back to February or March. Dak can play this year out. I imagine play well, especially now that CeeDee Lamb is got his money. That's huge for the Cowboys offense. Dak will be great. Cowboys will have another disappointing playoff exit. And he'll go to a franchise that actually has football in front of business and marketing and television ratings. It's all about winning in Pittsburgh. Just need that guy. Also, too, Cowboys signed Dalvin Cook. I'll touch on that towards the end of the show in about 30, 40 minutes or so. This is just hilarious on the part of Jerry Jones. The Cowboys are not active whatsoever throughout the offseason. And then Jerry comes back, hey, guys, we got Dalvin Cook. Touch on that toward the end of the show. Carving Up the Context is a segment we do every Wednesday. Now, I did a special edition of that on Monday talking about the biggest story in the NFL that nobody is talking about, but they will in the coming weeks, is the connection between the NFL ratings and the political ratings, cable news, Fox, CNN, MSNBC. There's going to be false narratives out there that the NFL is losing popularity, that they're not, they don't hold the attention of the American people the way they used to, which is not true. You can go back. I'm going to upload that as a video. It's on the show from Monday rather. I will upload that because I think it's a very important story that's not being talked about. That aside, this is Carving Up the Context Day, and as the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, primetime Deion Sanders says, give me my theme music. On this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, or rather the second edition of Carving Up the Context, given what we did on Monday. So we've obviously talked about the WNBA more on the show this year than we have. I've talked about it before in the past, in years past, and carving it up, but none more so this year because of, in particular, Caitlin Clark for the Indiana Fever, Angel Reese for the Chicago Sky, who've been duking it out in the Rookie of the Year battle. I think Caitlin's starting to pull away, get into that in just a second. But the league's popularity is at a point now where it hasn't been in quite some time. And it's for that reason, because of the heightened sense of scrutiny on the league in terms of the ratings of the league have gone up, the attention. It's led shows like mine, it's led shows like First Take and First Things First, and all these shows on television, radio shows, content creators, you name it. And Caitlin Clark primarily, but certainly Angel Reese has absolutely contributed to the rise of the league, along with the stars that are already in it, such as Asia Wilson, who's the best player in the league. But there was a lot of controversy prior to the Olympic Games that Caitlin Clark was left off the 12-woman roster for Paris, that she didn't make the 12-person roster to win another gold medal for Team USA. There's a lot of controversy around that. How could you? Marketing, it could help the WNBA, it could help women's basketball, it could this, it could that. And I said two things, one of which I was actually proven incorrect on, one I was proven spot on, 100% on the money on, that I'll get into. The thing that I was proven wrong on is I don't know if she's quite one of the 12 best players in the league. I'm going to have to retract that statement. I think she is. I think Caitlin, I can say now, is one of the 12 best players in the WNBA. Not say she's going to win league MVP or the Fever are going to win a championship. They're not good enough to do that quite yet. But I thought reasonable to high expectations for Caitlin's rookie year. She's in some ways kind of exceeded them. So that's number one. So I was wrong on that. What I was 100% right on is that I said, even if Caitlin is good enough to be on Team USA, I don't think she should. And I think her recent play is proving me correct. So if you go back to Iowa's senior, so Caitlin has been, she had been, I think on the minds of basketball fans who follow, Hoops Hype and other basketball House of Highlights basketball accounts on Instagram, seen her highlights, seen her pull up from 30 plus feet out. I'd seen Caitlin Clark prior to 2-3 seasons ago at Iowa, but she really came into the national spotlight in that first championship run in 2023, when obviously her and LSU and Angel Reese and LSU matched up in the national championship game. There was the infamous moment where Angel Reese was dogged by many portions of the media and fans, wrongfully, by the way. And that's when Caitlin and Angel, by the way, became kind of the focal points of our attention when it came to women's basketball. And it only intensified after what Caitlin did a season ago, becoming the all-time leading scorer in the history of NCAA basketball, men's or women's. So with that in mind, she has played up until July 17th, non-stop, with a couple breaks, I should say with a couple breaks in between the end of March Madness and the WNBA draft, when the season started only weeks later, between November and April. Her college season, if you want to look in totality, from November to July. Almost a full year straight. She's played a lot of basketball. And you saw Caitlin on social media. She was going to Yankees. I wish Caitlin would have went to Fenway, but nonetheless, she was going to Yankees games. She was chilling on the beach. She was relaxing, man. Refreshed. Her got some rest for her legs. That's huge for basketball players, particularly shooters. You got to have your legs to be able to get the necessary power in your jump shot. And you're seeing it with Caitlin Clark. We could show you what Caitlin was prior to the All-Star break and then after. Prior to the All-Star break, Caitlin was still really, really good. 17 points, 8 assists, almost 6 rebounds a game. Only shot about 40% from the field, 32 from 3. Did shoot 89% from the free throw line. But since the All-Star break, since she got an entire month off of basketball, her longest break in about a year from playing basketball, she's been awesome in the 4 games since. We can show you the numbers here. 23 points per game, 8.5 assists. Rebounds went down just a little bit, 5.8 to 5.5. The field goal percentage went up to 46. 3-point percentage at 36%. Free throw percentage, she's been darn near automatic at 94% from the stripe. She's been awesome. No other way around it. I don't think you get this Caitlin Clark if she goes to the Olympic Games. if she has to go to Olympic Team USA training camp. If she now, the thing is, she would not have played a ton. But, Tyrese Halliburton, who was, I think we all agree, was the worst player on Team USA, or not Halliburton, but Derek White was the worst player just in terms of accomplishments, but Tyrese Halliburton in terms of fit, was probably the worst player along with Tatum on Team USA. Halliburton still got minutes. Tatum still got a lot of minutes. Caitlin would have gone on the floor. She would have been a great floor spacer, three-point shooter, distributor. You saw what she did in the All-Star game. But it would not have been good for her in the long run this season. Well, Bryson, they still missed out on an opportunity to market women's basketball. They still missed out on this moment in time where Caitlin Clark is one of the 5 most popular American athletes. That I disagree with, and here's why. If you think Caitlin Clark is popular now, when she is, I think, with respect to Angel Reese, who's been great this year, I think the clear and obvious Rookie of the Year, taking an Indiana team that was god-awful a year ago, and it looks like, unless they just falter down the stretch, looks like they're going to make the playoffs, which would be highly impressive. It'd be great for the league to get Caitlin on television for the biggest games of the WNBA season. If you think she's popular now, wait till she comes back next year. Matter of fact, you ain't got to wait till the upcoming WNBA season starts, or the next WNBA season starts in May of 2025. Go to February of 2025. Oh, you're going to see the popularity for Caitlin Clark. Why February, you ask? Well, remember they did that Steph Curry versus Sabrina Ionescu three-point shooting contest, and it was like really great. It's close. Steph barely beat Sabrina Ionescu, who was shooting, by the way, from the NBA three-point line. It was very close. It was great television. It was by far the most entertaining part of the All-Star Saturday night. It's already been discussed. You mark my words, and it will happen in February. It's a long ways from now, but it will happen. A three-point contest featuring Steph Curry. I think Sabrina Ionescu probably comes back. Caitlin Clark undeniably gets invited, and I think accepts. It's great for her brand, great for the WNBA. She'll go. And I think a Klay Thompson, which the fact that he's a Dallas Maverick now, you get the Splash Brothers back together or competing against each other. It's great for television. It'll kind of be like, oh, Caitlin, here we go. And then she'll be better next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, she may have an MVP, a championship, or both. Come 2028, when Caitlin is the best or second best player in the league, not only will she make Team USA, the popularity for Team USA will far exceed what it would have been now when Caitlin didn't make the team, but got a little bit of a rest for her legs. Got a deep breath, got to be out of the spotlight for the first time in basically a year. And what she's doing now is pulling away in the Rookie of the Year race and probably about to lead the Indiana Fever to the playoffs. Not saying they wouldn't have made it had she gone to Team USA or had been invited to Team USA basketball, but I can confidently say she would not be doing now what she would have been had she gone to Team USA. She's been fantastic. So I think in the long run, and she reportedly told her coach, I didn't love her coach saying this to the public, that they just woke up a monster. They pissed off Caitlin Clark by leaving our Team USA. Great. I mean, any competitive athlete, that should be the case. But this was better for her. It's better for the Fever this year for whatever they may accomplish the rest of the season. And it's going to, the idea that the Caitlin Clark story is just kind of fizzle out in 2024, never to really be seen or heard from again. Oh no, it's only going to get bigger. When Tiger Woods first came on the scene, it just got bigger as he got better, right? Who's to say the same can't be said about Caitlin Clark? I think she's as popular now as she's ever been. And it's been, listen, in a society where one-hit wonders come and go, now more than ever because of TikTok and Instagram and social media, she has been able to stay on the focal point of our conversation for a year and a half. That may not sound that very long, but I mean, think about, April of 2023. Now we're about to go into September of 2024. It feels like a lot of things have happened in between now and then. We're still talking about Caitlin Clark now more than ever. So I think the thing that I was wrong on was that she wasn't good enough to be on that team. My bad. But counterpoint to that, she would not be doing what she was doing right now if she didn't make Team USA. If she did actually make Team USA, rather. So, in this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, I was still right on Caitlin Clark not making Team USA about that being a good thing. Just saying. Because she has been balling, man. And by the way, side note, Caitlin and Angel play on Friday. They played, I think, 3 times thus far. All 3 were fantastic games. The one where Chicago finally beat Indiana, that was a great game down the wire. Angel probably played her best game as a pro. Caitlin was really good in that one as well. But when is the Fever play in like 20 minutes? But on Friday, the Sky and the Fever square off in Chicago Friday at 7:30. So there you go. Friday at 7:30, Fever Sky. And it's on the Ion channel, by the way. So there you go. I'm telling y'all, the story is only going to grow. She's only going to, is what we're seeing right now from her a finished product? No, I think what we've seen from her since the All-Star break, since she got some time off for the first time in a while, shows you she's just going to keep getting better. So I can't wait. And by the way, she's led the Fever to the 7 seed. Angels led the Sky to the 8 seed. So there's kind of like a neck and neck sort of a battle there. I don't know. It's not going to happen, but can you imagine Caitlin versus Angel in the playoffs? I mean, we saw in the women's college basketball playoffs, obviously 1 game elimination the last 2 years, and those games got insane ratings. It's football season. And I've already said football ratings are going to come down because of the election. They'll take just a teensy tiny dip if we were to somehow get an Angel or Angel and Caitlin matchup, but I do not foresee that happening. But yeah, she's outstanding. Both of them are, but Caitlin is a generational talent. And it's going to be great for women's basketball in the WNBA. All right. What do we got next? Oh, speaking of generational talents, I didn't get a chance to talk about him on Monday because there were so many football topics, but he deserved a segment after what he just did. Shohei Ohtani just became the 6th member of the 40-40 club in the history of Major League Baseball and did so in the fewest games ever. We can actually show you the numbers right here. The 6 guys that are in the 40-40 club, for those that are curious, 40 home runs, 40 steals. Shohei Ohtani, 2024, got to the 40-40 club in 126 games. For context, the fastest prior to Shohei was Alfonso Soriano in 2006, 147 games. So Shohei beat the record for the fastest to the 40-40 club in a single season. Shohei did that 21 games sooner. And obviously, to respect the 40-40 club, Shohei Ohtani, Alfonso Soriano, Jose Canseco, Ronald Acuna Jr., Alex Rodriguez, and of course, Barry Bonds. So that's a very elite club. And by the way, that little logo and Alfred, by the way, shout out to Alfred Parser Jr., who does the graphics for the show, does a fantastic job. Told me a story about the 40-40 club, about how when Alfonso Soriano did that in 2006, joined the 40-40 club, that Jay-Z opened a club called the 40-40 club. So I thought that was pretty cool, and that's why it's on there. And by the way, as far as Shohei, he's in a very select group of athletes. You could probably count it on your hand, where there's not only is there no equal to him in terms of what he's great at, but you can't replicate Shohei Ohtani. You can't do it. It's Steph Curry shooting the basketball. There's others. By the way, it's just talked about Caitlin Clark. We're seeing what she's doing in women's basketball. She's been great shooting the ball from distance. Her average distance on her 3-point shots is actually longer than Steph's. That said, Steph, and we saw what he did in the Olympics. My man, go Steph Curry. We saw what Steph Curry did in the Olympics. We saw he's literally changed the way a sport is played, coached, and analyzed. You can't replicate that. Trae Young has tried. Damian Lillard's tried. Caitlin Clark's doing her darndest to do it. Nobody can replicate that. What he can do off the dribble, catch and shoot, off screen. Can't replicate that. Can't replicate Simone Biles. I mean, for crying out loud, she's got, I did a segment on Simone a few weeks ago. She's got countless moves named after her. She has never lost. I saw this stat. It's remarkable. She's never lost a competition, a gymnastics competition championship of any sort since 2013. She's not the greatest gymnast ever. She's the greatest gymnast, and it's not even remotely close. Wayne Gretzky, obviously retired athlete, but Wayne Gretzky was that way. Michael Phelps was that way. You can't replicate certain athletes, and you can't replicate Shohei Ohtani. We will see, we will see guys down the road who can hit and pitch. We've seen it prior to Shohei. We'll see it after Shohei. Not like this. We can show you what Shohei has done just this season. And he's the clear and obvious National League MVP. 41 homers, that's second. 94 RBIs, that's tied for sixth. 294 average, 14th in Major League Baseball. 994 OPS, that's fourth in baseball. 150 hits, that's eighth. 40 stolen bases, that is second. And he's the sixth player in the history of Major League Baseball to join the 40-40 club. And he's, by the way, the first Dodger to that as well. Obviously holds weight given the prestigious organization that they are. Certain athletes can't, and by the way, certain athletes can't be replicated. Shohei's second to last, or second to most recent pitching season. Oh, I don't know. He casually went out there, went 15-9, had an ERA of 2.33, and struck out 219 batters. Can he reach that off of another Tommy John surgery? I don't know. Nate Eovaldi, has been better post two Tommy John surgeries than he was prior to it. With modern medicine, modern science, we're seeing different injury. I get this, but we've seen guys in the NFL, in the NBA, Kevin Durant is a prime example, be just statistically just as good post-Achilles injury as he was prior to it. So modern technology, modern medicine, I don't think there's any reason to believe Shohei Ohtani can't get to the level of pitcher that he was prior to the second surgery on the second Tommy John surgery. Certain athletes can't be replicated. Even Patrick Mahomes, I'm not so sure he can be replicated, but Patrick, in a way, has taken a lot of what Aaron Rodgers did and improved upon it, particularly in terms of, if we're just talking results, postseason success. Caleb Williams looks like he's trying to model Mahomes. Now, I don't think he is and he, by the way, he shouldn't be, he's a rookie, but I don't think he's near at the line of scrimmage with Mahomes. Mahomes of line of scrimmage, I don't think we give him enough credit for how incredible he is there. Arm strength, arm angles, no look, underhanded passes to Kelsey in the preseason. I mean, he can do it all, obviously. We know that. We know what Patrick Mahomes is. Certain athletes, and it sort of goes to what I said. I remember when Steph Curry, almost 3 years ago, broke Ray Allen's three-point record. And right now, he's obviously in the process of absolutely shattering that record. I said Steph is in an elite class of athletes where in their particular field, or at least what they're greatest at, literally nobody argues it. Nobody argues who the greatest shooter ever is. That we argue who's second. Who's second behind Steph? Is it Reggie Miller? Is it Ray Allen? Is it Klay Thompson? Damian Lillard? Who is it? Nobody even waste time arguing. Is Steph Curry the greatest shooter ever? Duh. He holds like every shooting record in existence. Wayne Gretzky. Nobody even debates. I'm not even a hockey fan. I know how great Wayne Gretzky was. I think the stat is if he weren't the all-time leading, if you take away all of his goals scored, he'd still be the all-time leading scorer in terms of like assists. I think that was what the stat was, which is just insane. We don't argue the greatest gymnast is. We don't argue who the greatest swimmer is. I don't know. Is Shohei so hard to put in a box because of how fluid of a baseball player that he is, especially come next year? By the way, I've saw the tape of him him throwing a little bit. I don't know if it's prior to or Dodgers game or in some other facility. Shohei may pitch in October. Don't rule that out. I'm just saying, you may very well see this man on the mound come the NLDS or NLCS. I'm just saying, the guy is unbelievable. So, listen, that was kind of my takeaway. And by the way, the fact that he did it, he joined the 40-40 club on a walk-off grand slam. I mean, that's storybook right there. That will be kind of one that Shohei's going to accomplish a lot in his career now that he's actually with a well-run organization with the Dodgers. But that's going to be one of the moments that you point to in the Shohei Ohtani documentary someday. Like, yep, the moment he became the sixth 40-40 guy in baseball history and the quickest ever to join that club, he did it on a walk-off grand slam on a Friday night in Dodger Stadium. It doesn't get better than that. Listen, I may have tried to recruit him as hard as I could to the Red Sox, but I still have immense respect for him as a baseball player, and you can't really quantify how great he is or put him in a box. He's great at basically everything. He's a power hitter. He's second to Aaron Judge in home runs. He's second to Ellie De La Cruz in stolen bases. He's a, we talk about unicorns in basketball a lot. He's a unicorn. We've never seen anything like him. He's unbelievable. And I'll clip this and put it on YouTube in the coming days. Obviously, those stats will change because the Dodgers, it's a 162 game season. You're playing darn every day. But the point remains, the guy is remarkable. I think is the clear runaway National League MVP. And I think he will be that. All right. Quickly to the Dallas Cowboys, and then we'll finish the show with AFC and NFC North strengths and weaknesses. Cowboys signed Dalvin Cook today. He's going to start in the practice squad. Dalvin Cook is a 4-time Pro Bowler as a running back in this league. He was highly productive with the Minnesota Vikings. Went to the New York Jets last season. Wasn't that same guy. Matter of fact, wasn't even close. Took a cup of coffee in Baltimore. Played in their 2 playoff games against the Texans and the Chiefs, and didn't show a whole heck of a lot there either. So here's the thing. Adding Dalvin Cook doesn't hurt the Cowboys. This isn't a bad addition. It was a backfield that was already thin with Rico Dowdle, Ezekiel Elliott, and 5'5" Deuce Vaughn. So this makes it better, I guess. But does this all of a sudden give the Dallas Cowboys a respectable run game? No, it does not. Because here's the thing that folks are forgetting. Because I'm here. Well, Dalvin Cook was he was injured last year. He was running behind a bad offensive line with the New York Jets. Then why was he a free agent despite being healthy? Why was he a free agent up until August 28th? Free agency started 5 months ago. Why did nobody pick him up? It's in large part because he is a 29-year-old running back. And if I've learned anything about covering the National Football League and observing these players, there's one thing that I know to be true. Overwhelmingly so, Adrian Peterson broke that rule, has broken this rule in the past. Some other guys have. Running backs generally don't get better once they turn 30. That's just not how the game is played, especially running backs with an injury history, which Dalvin Cook has. So I don't think, listen, it's his last season in Minnesota, he was a Pro Bowler, and they couldn't get rid of him fast enough. Minnesota, they're in a rough spot at the quarterback position. I didn't buy J.J. McCarthy much to begin with this year. A season ago, Kirk Cousins was his last year there. Minnesota's had turbulence at the quarterback position. I think Kevin O'Connell's a brilliant coach. I love their receivers. Brian Flores has done a great job with the defenses there. And so, all that said, Minnesota's generally a pretty well-run franchise. They couldn't get him out of there fast enough. And the fact that it's always be very, very leery of poorly run franchises taking a playoff well-run franchises. It's kind of what the Patriots and Belichick used to do back in the day. If you notice, the Patriots would always do deals with like the Cardinals, with the Browns, with the Lions when they were poorly run, like bad franchises. The Warriors. I mean, some argue the trade that helped the Warriors win their most recent championship was with the Timberwolves when they have a great upper management now, but when the Timberwolves were poorly run back in the day. They made the deal to move D'Angelo Russell, end up getting Andrew Wiggins, who was the second best player on the 22 title team, and Jonathan Kuminga, who we'll see what he becomes, but I think Kuminga, be it with the Warriors or be it with somebody else, is going to be an all-star in this league. Multi-time all-star. Fleece the Timberwolves. The Warriors didn't make a deal with the Timberwolves in moving Klay Thompson for Kevin Love. So this is, for the Dallas Cowboys, does it hurt them? No, of course it didn't hurt them. It's another body in the backfield. It's a guy who was a Pro Bowler 2 years ago for what that's worth. But again, at the age of 29 with an injury history, running backs don't tend to get better. That's where I'm at on that situation. So to me, the strategy for the Cowboys should have always been draft a running back second, third, fourth round. Kind of like the Dolphins did. Like the Dolphins already had a good running game with Raheem Mostert and Achane, and they said, we're going to get Jalen Wright out of the University of Tennessee. Go Vols. Volview is back on Friday, by the way. But we're going to get a guy who fits our system perfectly. You know why? Because Jalen Wright saw it in person against Georgia. Can fly. The Cowboys didn't really do that. They let Tony Pollard walk, which I don't think was a bad decision. Pollard wasn't terribly productive last year. And then bring back an old Ezekiel Elliott. Rico Dowdle, I think actually, honestly speaking, I think has the best shot to be the best running back on this team. Cook's older. Zeke is old and beat up. Rico Dowdle, to my knowledge, is still a relatively young player with not a ton of mileage on his body. So I think it's best to go, unless you're Christian McCaffrey, unless you're just a freak of nature, it's best to go with a draft a running back like the Chiefs drafted Pacheco a couple of years ago. I would not be shocked at all if by 2026 Pacheco's not a Chief and they just draft somebody else. That's kind of been what they've done. And I think it's a smart way to do business given where the market has gone at the running back position. I talked about that extensively last year when Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, Saquon Barkley, a lot of other running backs, Nick Chubb, were outraged. And I get it. You want to get your money. I'm not trying to take money out of anybody's pockets, but they were outraged at where the running back market was going. And my retort to that and the NFL's retort to that was, yeah, but it's a quarterback-centric league. The running backs are, declining assets as they get older. So it's not a bad move by the Cowboys, but I don't think this is going to add an extra win to their regular season. I don't think this is going to pay huge dividends for them in the playoffs. We saw Dalvin Cook in the playoffs with a great offensive line and Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, and he was a no-show. There's a reason the Vikings moved off him, reason the Jets moved off him, reason the Ravens let him walk. You've been passed over by 3 teams. After once being great, by the way, that's got to tell you something. Check the comments. Yeah, Patrick's 100% right. He says, happy Wednesday, everyone. Hope you're staying hydrated in this heat wave. It has been hot here in Tennessee. My goodness. Philip's right. If this was 2018, the Cowboys would be a super team, but it's not. It's 2024. This is better than nothing, but it won't matter in the long run. Listen, I think if there's one positive way to look at it, it's that the Cowboys now have depth or extra depth at the running back position. And they'll probably try and do this by committee, give it to Cook, give it to Zeke. I think Zeke will be good in short yardage situations. But to me, the aspect of the Cowboys running game, and to me, the most important part of a running game that's going to do them in is late game situations. You saw it a little bit in that game against Detroit where the Cowboys barely got out of there, barely got out of there alive with a W. But if the Cowboys are in a game, it's 20-16. Late in the fourth quarter, the Cowboys got the ball, front side of the 2-minute warning, so you got to play before the warning, and the other team has all 3 of their timeouts, and the Cowboys are at their own 35-yard line. I would almost guarantee this and come back to this. The Cowboys will be in a situation, and I don't know if they'll win or lose the game because they survived that game against the Lions back in Week 17 a year ago. It'll be late game, close, other team has all their timeouts, and Dallas will throw the ball when they probably shouldn't. And McCarthy will get crushed for it. If Dak throws an incompletion, he'll get crushed for it. And I'll defend them the next day because I'm like, and do you rely on Ezekiel Elliott? Unless it's like a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 situation. Are you relying on Zeke? Are you relying on an old beat-up Dalvin Cook? Rico Dowdle. Rico may be productive. That's kind of the unknown quantity of this entire affair. And Deuce Vaughn is not a between the tackles guy in the National Football League at 5 feet 5 inches tall. That will happen this upcoming season for the Cowboys. McCarthy has always been criticized for, and rightfully so, by the way, for bungling late game situations. They may bungle a late game situation in regards to that, in regards to them throwing the football and saving time for the opposition, saving timeouts for the opposition. I think I'll probably defend them on that if they do, even if it costs them a game, because what are they going to rely on? Listen, they're not the Baltimore Ravens in terms of running back by committee. And by the way, the Baltimore Ravens, part of the reason it works, A, their offensive line is awesome, and B, their quarterback's one of the most mobile in the history of the league. I love Dak, but he's not Lamar in that regard. So there you go. Also, I saw this. Anthony Slater, who covers the Warriors, and I kind of like this, said that the Warriors want Brandon Pajemski to take 8 to 10 3-pointers per game next season. I'm good with that. Pajemski was, if you ask my man Mike Guido, who I think the reason has not commented on my opening segment of the show is because he is just livid at my opening segment. He's a Josh Allen stan. I'm I love Josh Allen. I just don't think he's Mahomes 2.0 or 1B to Mahomes is 1A. But speaking of Mike, the reason I brought him up is, he covers the draft for us every year, particularly with the NBA. And his number one thing in a scouting report with Brandon Pajemski when the Warriors drafted him a year ago was the kid could shoot the lights out. And that was evident last. I don't have a shooting percentage right in front of me, but he was money from out there. So listen, and I love Pajemski. I think he can. Not saying he will. I think Kuminga will be an all-star. I think Pajemski can be at some point in his career. Not right now. Maybe not even with the Warriors. But it's the Olympics, I hope, was a wake-up call. And this is the only thing I'll say about the Warriors, and then we'll move to our last topic, AFC North, NFC North, strengths and weaknesses. That Olympics should have been a wake-up call for the Golden State Warriors. And by the way, I'm not saying they haven't tried at all. I think they have. They tried the Paul George thing. The Clippers negotiated in bad faith. And they'll pay the price for that because they'll be an irrelevant basketball team this year. With that said, just give Steph. You don't have to give him. I heard somebody suggest Giannis. If you give Steph Giannis, that'd be awesome. I'd be over the moon if that happened. But that's kind of a pipe dream, and you'd have to give up. You probably have to give up Draymond on that deal, and you lose the toughness. You lose the chemistry with Steph, leadership. I don't love that. I think the Warriors need to try and get Kevin Durant. Now that they missed out on Lauri Markkanen, but if nothing, even if it's not Kevin Durant, get Steph Curry a legitimate all-star level co-star, like basically every other superstar in the NBA has, with this supporting cast, which I think is clearly better than a year ago. Like, I think the Warriors are a playoff team right now, but they can't win the championship right now with the roster they've got. They can't. A playoff series, maybe. They cannot win the championship with the roster that they have. But it is better than a year ago. Adding Buddy Hield, adding DeAnthony Melton, adding Kyle Anderson, like a lot of those moves. And by the way, they drafted a big man, which they needed to go with Trace Jackson Davis. You need that extra bit of, pardon the expression, splash with the Warriors. Otherwise, you're not competing for a championship, and I think Steph leaves next offseason. I think they are really on the clock right now. I think they have till this upcoming deadline to make sure Steph retires a Warrior, right? Because Steph knows how great he still is. Steph is going to age very well because of his style of play, despite being 36 years of age. He knows he can still be a focal point of championship-winning teams, and if the Warriors don't present the best opportunity to do that, it will hurt, but I think he will leave and ask for a trade. So there's that. All right. I had to talk Warriors at some point in the show in August. I mean, it's literally the dead period of the NBA calendar year, but I had to sneak that in there. All right. So I've been doing this last couple of shows. I did do we have a comment? Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Patrick. Guido will never hear the end of implying Josh Allen as Kobe Bryant. We love you, Mike, but that take was very bad. We all have bad takes, but that one, and again, we argue about this constantly in our group chat at the Grid. I get what Mike is trying to say in comparing Josh Allen to Kobe Bryant, but it does not land. It simply doesn't. Kobe was clutch. Josh, Kobe had a great individual, accomplished great things individually. Josh Allen really hasn't in terms of awards. I understand where he's coming from and what he's trying to say, but it doesn't work. Anywho's it. Back to our originally scheduled programming. Thanks for saying that, Patrick. So the last couple of shows, I did both East Divisions, AFC, NFC, a couple of Wednesdays ago before I took my last vacation. And on Monday, I did AFC and NFC South strengths and weaknesses. So naturally, today, we're going to talk about the AFC and NFC North divisions, which I will just say on the outset of this, I think these are the two best divisions in the NFL. AFC North, NFC North, those are the only two divisions. Take out the Minnesota Vikings, where I think all seven are playoff contenders. Some of them obviously are Super Bowl contenders, which we'll get to. Get the background music before we go. We will start strengths and weaknesses, AFC North, and this, since we're going the AFC North, we're going to start with the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens' biggest strength is Derrick Henry and a slimmed down Lamar. will haunt defensive coordinators. That's the biggest strength of the Baltimore Ravens. So look, again, I said in the Dalvin Cook segment, running backs tend to not get better on the other side of 30, on the wrong side of 30. I get that with Derrick Henry, but he's still a very productive player in this league. And again, the opposite, I don't think Derrick's going to be what he was 2021 Derrick Henry, but can he still be productive? A bruiser and a guy who can get you 4 yards a clip and 4 yards a carry? No question about it. He's a guy who can run behind that big offensive line in Baltimore. And with Lamar Jackson, who fell, and you saw it points last season. Like if he felt like he was going to get caught, he would like pull up and go out of bounds. If he was, on a one-man scamper, if he had a safety to beat, the safety would often catch him. In years past, that wasn't the case. Lamar lost weight. He joked this offseason. He said, I was fat, last season, the last 2 years. So he's lost weight. He looks a little bit like the older, or rather the younger Lamar Jackson. If the running capability improves for Lamar with his improved passing over the last few years, along with Derrick Henry, Baltimore's rushing attack is going to be, as it's been in years past, pretty darn difficult to stop. So that's the biggest strength for the Ravens. The biggest weakness of the Ravens, though, is defense is bound to take a step back. It just is. You lost Mike McDonald, who was probably the best defensive coordinator in football last year, who became the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, and you lost one of your key defensive playmakers, Patrick Queen, to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Thank you very much. So, Patrick Queen's been great the last few years since being drafted out of LSU. They lose him. They lose Mike McDonald. And for those that are saying, well, by and large, the defensive personnel is the same for the Ravens, so was the case with the Philadelphia Eagles last year. And the Eagles were especially in terms of sacking the quarterback, a historically great defense. And then Jonathan Gannon left, the defensive coordinator, to become the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. And last year, the Eagles were arguably the worst division in football, the worst defense in football. I don't think the Ravens are going to have that type of plummet the way Philadelphia did, because defense is kind of in Baltimore's culture and always has been. But that's something to keep your eye on. The Baltimore was amazing defensively last year. I'm not saying they won't be, again, great this year, but they will not be in the conversation as the best defense in all football. That's my prediction, and that is the biggest weakness for the Baltimore Ravens. Moving on to the Cleveland Browns, their biggest strength, O-line and head coach are elite. So their offensive line's been dealing with a lot of injuries, particularly in training camp. I think they're going to get a lot of those guys back before the season opener against the Cowboys. I think it's going to mostly be sustainable throughout the course of the season. But Cleveland's offensive line the last 5 years or so has been amongst the best in the league. And Kevin Stefanski, I've been a Kevin Stefanski guy for a long time on the show. The fact that he took over a very dysfunctional organization in Cleveland, year one playoffs and a playoff win. There was the stuff where Baker was dealing with a shoulder injury. 2022 was kind of a mess. Last year, to be able to take a Cleveland Browns team that was awesome on defense with Jeff Schwartz, Schwartz calling the plays. But offensively, you had Deshaun Watson, you had DTR, you had a lot of other guys stood up, and at the end of the season, you have an old office couch Joe Flacco, who had us convinced, hey, the Browns may make a run in the AFC Championship game. Didn't fool me, but there was a lot of folks who were saying Cleveland is a Super Bowl threat with Joe Flacco. That's Kevin Stefanski for you. He's that brilliant of an offensive play caller. The problem is with the Browns, though, is that their quarterback situation is bad. Their biggest weakness is that 2020 Deshaun Watson is long gone. That he is gone, never to be seen again. Deshaun Watson was great, historically great, statistically at least, not in terms of wins, but in terms of his statistical output, was fantastic in 2021. There's the off-the-field stuff, of which there's nobody to blame but Deshaun. Didn't play in 2021, didn't play the majority of 2022, didn't play the majority of last year, and prior to getting injured, save for like a one game, I think maybe against the Cardinals, Deshaun Watson was not very good whatsoever a season ago. That's going to hold the Browns back in the long run. To my Pittsburgh Steelers, our biggest weakness is Tomlin is a wizard situational. So the Steelers since 2020, so basically in this decade, despite a declining Big Ben and a carousel of backup quarterbacks with the names of Pickett, Trubisky, Rudolph, among others, since 2020, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 31-11 in one-score games. A season ago, I think they were 9-2 in one-score games. So those again, I remember there was a lot of discussion even on this show, like how the Steelers are god-awful offensively. How are they winning these games? because they're situationally sound, because they really don't commit dumb penalties in the fourth quarter. They don't turn the football over in the fourth quarter. It's simplistic. It's not sexy necessarily, but it works. It always has worked in the history of the NFL. The problem, though, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the biggest weakness is elite roster, which I believe it is. The defense is stacked. The offense has plenty of playmakers everywhere. Elite rosters held back by mediocre quarterbacks. Russell Wilson, yes, he was good statistically a year ago. Those were very misleading stats. That was a lot of dink and dunk. That was a lot of not taking a whole lot of shots down the field when maybe the play would have been there because of the risk of throwing an interception. Russell's 35, 36 years old, getting older, year 13, declining player, obviously. And Justin Fields, playmaker with the ball in his hands, not a special player throwing the football whatsoever. That's what's going to hold the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the long run when it's all said and done. Moving on to the Cincinnati Bengals, their biggest strength is Burrow's the only guy active who is taking down Patrick Mahomes. There's no other way around it. So, notice I said active, by the way. Tom Brady took down Mahomes, obviously, in a Super Bowl 54, 55 in Tampa Bay, when the Chiefs' offensive line was, well, it might as well have been me out there protecting Mahomes. Joe Burrow is the only guy that can say he went to Arrowhead, even including Brady. Actually, Brady went to Arrowhead once. My bad. Only guy active who's went to Arrowhead Stadium and said, I outplayed Mahomes. I came back on Mahomes in the second half, and I beat Mahomes in overtime of that playoff game in Arrowhead Stadium. It's the last time Mahomes has lost in the playoffs before winning the last two Super Bowls. I think there's some flaws in Cincinnati's roster, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, and their offensive line I still don't particularly trust. And that kind of ties into their biggest weakness, is that Burrow's injury history can't be ignored. We know what these knee injuries suffered in 2020. He had the appendicitis. He's had the wrist injury. He had a knee injury. Like the guy's been beat up over the course of his 4-year career. Now going to year 5 with the Bengals. That to me is the one thing that will held him back, I think, a year ago, and it is part of the reason my Steelers got in the playoffs. This year, that needs to be intact. If not, the Bengals may be in a position where they have to consider the future of Joe Burrow in terms of what are we going to do at that position if we can't count on him to stay healthy. Knock on wood that that's not the case, because he's such a great player. You want to see him out there, even as a Steelers fan. So that's the biggest weakness for the Bengals. Moving on to the NFC North, we're going to start with the division champions, a team you could argue and say my Detroit Lions to a certain degree, because I've loved them for a while as title threats. Their biggest strength is best O-line in the NFL and a brilliant offensive coordinator. So here's the thing for Detroit. Their O-line's awesome. Philadelphia, I think, was in a legitimate battle with Detroit to be the best O-line in the league. The retirement of Jason Kelce, to me, gives the edge to Detroit. Penei Sewell, in particular, I loved him coming out of college at Oregon. Most did. The guy's just an absolute one-man wrecking crew as a right tackle. They got Sam Decker. They've got other guys. Decker. They got other guys in that offensive line in Detroit, which provides help for a good running game with Jahmyr Gibbs, among others. Jared Goff has always been, throughout his career, a well below average quarterback when he's facing pressure. And when he's got a clean pocket, Jared Goff is as accurate as they come. Goff is kind of the last of a dying breed of quarterbacks in terms of just being a pure statuesque pocket passer. But because he is, that O-line better be good. And it's not only good in Detroit, it's awesome. And by the way, their offensive coordinator is nothing short of brilliant. Ben Johnson is as good as they come, and could have been a head coach this past offseason. Wanted to come back, help the Lions go deeper in the postseason, maybe win a Super Bowl, and then he'll be a head coach come 2025. That's the Detroit Lions' biggest strength. But their biggest weakness is their head coach, Dan Campbell, late in games. His recklessness late in football games. We remember that game against the Dallas Cowboys, where the Lions are down 7 late in the game. They score a touchdown. Conventional wisdom says kick the extra point, but Dan Campbell's like, you know what? We're going to go for the win. God bless him. They run the trick play. There's confusion with the officiating. Nonetheless, the play is called back to the 7-yard line. Now, smart coaches would say, hey, we're going to kick the extra point. Let's just go to overtime. The 2-point conversion didn't work. He said, no, we're going to try it again. And a couple plays later, it failed, and the Lions lost that game. Could have helped them in terms of playoff seeding, lost them the game. So that's something to be considered with Detroit. And listen, I love Dan Campbell. I think the guy is as good as they come in terms of motivation, culture building. The Lions were a disaster when he took over. Now we look at them as a perennial Super Bowl threat out of the NFC potentially. That's him. But late in games, I do worry about the Lions. They're kind of the anti-Steelers in that way, situationally. That's the biggest weakness for Detroit. For the Green Bay Packers, my sister's favorite team, their biggest strength is Love finished last year as a top 5 quarterback. There's no question about it. Jordan Love in the second half of last season, from week 11 on to their playoff loss to San Francisco, 23 touchdowns, 3 picks, 113 passer rating, and the Packers in that stretch went 7-3. The guy was unbelievable. And the culmination of that came in Jerry World against the Cowboys, where he threw a party against the Cowboys defense that afternoon in Dallas. If he continues that going into this season after getting the biggest contract in NFL history, oh yeah, he will be, I think, universally regarded as if not in the top 5, darn close. It's going to be like a Jordan Love, CJ Stroud, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott type of discussion. Like, it's going to be those guys. Who's the 5th best quarterback behind Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar, and Josh Allen? That's what's going to happen if Love continues that. The weakness for the Packers, though, is that the defense has very little depth. Now, the defense was kind of a roller coaster a year ago after being actually really good in 2022. It dealt with a lot of injuries. They've tried to shore that up in the draft. They drafted, some guys to help their secondary. Jair Alexander, who's been one of the best corners in the NFL, kind of had a down season. That's going to be something I think that's going to hurt the Packers in the long run. And if the Packers go on to lose in the NFC Championship game to the Lions or to the 49ers or somebody like that, with teams that have weapons, that I think will do them in. It won't be their offense. I don't think it will be. That's the biggest weakness for the Green Bay Packers. To the Minnesota Vikings, their biggest strength is top receiving tandem in the league. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are as good as they come when it comes to being able to separate, catch the football, run after the catch, deep threats, the whole bit. They're both excellent route runners. Jefferson, I think, is the best receiver in the National Football League, and I think despite the limitations at quarterback that I'll get into in just a moment, I think he will continue to show us that, assuming that he is healthy, knock on wood. We saw a year ago with Jordan Addison, for all his call it issues off the field, bro, what are you doing? That game against the 49ers on Monday Night Football with Kirk Cousins, albeit, but on Monday Night Football against San Francisco, one of the best defenses in the NFL, Justin Jefferson out of the lineup. Jordan Addison went crazy in that game. We saw his capabilities back at USC. He had a great rookie year with the Minnesota Vikings. I expect him, assuming he doesn't act like a dum-dum off the field, to continue on the field with the best receiver in the game, Justin Jefferson, who got the bag, well-deserved. Minnesota Vikings, that's their biggest strength. Their biggest weakness, though, is that Sam Darnold is still Sam Darnold. I don't think there's anything more to say other than that. Now, I don't think Darnold will be atrocious this coming season. If you look back to his 2022 numbers, the last time he really played, got significant action on the field, it's fine. The numbers aren't going to blow you away. The completion percentage isn't very good, but it went, I think, 4-2 in a start. He was pretty good. The Panthers almost made the playoffs over Tom Brady's Bucks that year. So you give Sam Darnold credit for that in that regard. But with Minnesota, he's got a smart offensive coach in Kevin O'Connell and the aforementioned weapons. But he's still Sam Darnold. He's not accurate. He's not a good decision maker. Mobility is just not there. He's still Sam Darnold. That's going to hold the Vikings back from being a playoff team in 2024. Finally, the Chicago Bears, before we get out of here, their biggest strength is loaded offense with a quarterback with infinite potential. So I don't know if there's an offense in the NFL that improved more than Chicago's. Get to Caleb, but you add DeAndre Swift. You add Keenan Allen, who, albeit it's on the last leg of his career, but had a great season last year with Justin Herbert, with a bad offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. And they also add Rome Odunze, who many regarded as the second best receiver in the draft, to Marvin Harrison Jr. So you look what they did. They've been able to add to their offensive line over the last couple of drafts, and being able to really kind of shore that out to give Caleb protection he needs. And speaking of Caleb, if the concerns about him are fashion choices and his relationship, loving his mother, I think we're going to be fine. I think the Bears are going to be fine. I think Caleb Williams is going to be just okay because he is a virtual A+ at everything that actually matters when it comes to evaluating the quarterback position. Arm strength, mobility, leadership, accuracy, being able to make throws in the pocket, outside the pocket. And by the way, for the first time in his career, probably since high school, he won't have to be A+ every single game for the Bears, the way he was at USC, who had a god-awful defense. So that's going to really help the Bears this season into, I think, could be a potential playoff team. The biggest weakness, though, of the Chicago Bears is that Eberflus is still an unproven head coach. We haven't seen the guy make the playoffs yet. He's going to year 3 of his time in Chicago. We know he's a great defensive coach because the Bears defense has been excellent. The addition of Montez Sweat, the trade deadline, has helped them tremendously. Jalen Johnson's a great player in the defensive backfield. They've got some real dudes. Listen, I talked about earlier with the Ravens defense being their identity. Same thing with the Chicago Bears. That's who they are. They still to this day talk about the 85 Bears defense. So that's going to be fine, and Eberflus is going to do well with that. But can he be able to parlay? And we'll see what the offensive coaching staff does with the Bears. Can he parlay the talent of Caleb Williams and the talent of that Bears offense into a successful season, into a 10-11 win regular season for Chicago? That remains to be seen. I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying right now, given what we've seen, that's a little bit of a weakness for the Chicago Bears. So there we go. Strengths and weaknesses, AFC North and NFC North. So there we go. And on Friday, we'll do AFC and NFC West. So we'll do the two, we'll be headlined obviously by the two teams that made the Super Bowl last year, the Chiefs and the 49ers, as well as the other teams following them. Again, I've got a lot of I talked about earlier with the Steelers. I don't really know what I'm going to do with the Steelers in terms of where I have them finishing this year, but the majority of my predictions are mostly set in stone. There's a team in one of the two divisions that I'll preview on Friday and give strengths and weaknesses for, AFC West and NFC West. There's a team that I think could be a sneaky Super Bowl threat. Obviously, we know who the Chiefs are. We know the 49ers are. Among those teams, just keep your eye out for a squad, AFC West and NFC West, absent the Niners and Chiefs, that could really make some noise this upcoming season. I'll save that for my predictions, but there's a sleeper team that I kind of like. I'll leave it at that. And with that, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Be sure to catch Carving It Up live on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern and 3 p.m. Pacific time right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. Of course, be sure to like, share, comment, and please take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button down there. It helps the channel grow exponentially. We are on the road, hopefully, the next goal to 5,000 subscribers. 1,000, we already passed that. 5,000 subscribers. That is the next goal for the show. So if you have not subscribed, hey, just takes a couple seconds. Take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button down there, and boom, you are part of what is, to me, one of the most supportive and amazing communities in the world. And that is the folks that take the time out of their day to tune into the show. It's a supportive community, and love for you to be a part of it. If you have subscribed, we appreciate it. Myself, everybody involved with Carving It Up. Please tell your friends about it. Please tell your family about Carving It Up. Tell everybody you know about Carving It Up, except for your sleeping cat. Nealon, you got to lay off the trees, my man. It's just got to calm down. I love that little guy, though. To tell everybody you know about the show, and just as importantly, tell everybody you know about the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. And of course, be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe to the Grid. Be sure to check out all of our content creators on the Grid's YouTube channel, anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, the whole bit. Check out my man Patrick writing some killer articles for the Grid Network website. The link to that website is on our Instagram account at Grid Network. Grid_network, I think it is. So definitely check that stuff out. I'm doing some great stuff on there. All right, I'll see you on Friday. Please be sure to stay safe out there. Please be sure to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. And please, please, please be sure to contact your local state representatives and senators to demand change for gun violence in America. Doesn't matter where you lean, right, left, center. This is an issue that impacts every single one of us on a daily basis as American citizens. And no matter what anybody on either side of the aisle tries to tell you, oh, it's not a problem, or oh, there's only one solution to the problem, both are BS. Both are not true. It's a huge problem that needs a number of nuanced, detailed solutions to solve it, especially this being an election year. Don't just call those you know in power to get things changed and get things working in the right direction for us. This election year, so if anybody on either side doesn't seem to care too much about this situation, vote for the other person. We got to address this ASAP. We got to feel safe in this country. No question about it. All right. See you on Friday. AFC West, NFC West, strengths and weaknesses. We got the Vol. By the way, the Vol view's back. Are you kidding me? I cannot wait. I am just like biting my tongue and college football predictions. We're going to have a fun time on Friday. 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific time. Carving It Up YouTube channel, Grid Network YouTube channel. Stay tuned for that. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. See, I'm not a Josh Allen hater. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.